This is me over the weekend. Got together with a bunch of people. A lot of people there I didn't know too, but that's me in the back. Such a good time. You ready to roll?
3, 2, 1.
Good evening. It is still not safe to gather with people. You must remain in lockdown and refrain from gathering for your protection and the safety of those around you. The experts who you give your power away to estimate that it'll be safe to gather with people again in about 7 generations from now. In other news, The Lancet reported an estimated 265 million people will be facing acute food insecurity by the end of 2020. And it's estimated lockdowns will push an additional 150 million people into extreme poverty. It's clear that the public and the experts who are allowed to talk want more lockdowns.
You heard the trusted newsman and establishment figure talking in monotone voices. Obey or else. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Gadowski of WeAreChange.org. That intro clip was just a short excerpt from the Awaken with JP YouTube channel. The link to the full video will be down in the description below. And in this video, we are actually going to be talking about some of these very important points, as we are going to be talking about some of the more troubling news surrounding the Conholio sickness jab. You know, because who would have ever thought that an experimental, first of its kind ever in medical history rushed jab medicine is finding itself to having some adverse health effects, or even people in Russia, yes, Russia, are told that they can't drink alcohol for 2 months. No, this is not the Babylon Bee. This is not satire. That's literally like telling fish not to drink water. Good luck with that. But before we get into all of that, plus a lot more, did you know that there is a high-ranking U.S. congressman that is a part of the House Intelligence Committee that, by the way, has unrestricted access to classified information that was recently caught in a honeypot spy operation from China? Yes, of course, we're talking about Eric Swalwell, a man who obsessively talked about Russian collusion and Russian infiltration of the U.S. government as he was being infiltrated in more ways than one by the Chinese government. And some of the details that we're finding out right now are especially troublesome, since we're finding out that Eric Swalwell had this honeypot spy along with him since the start of his political career. This Chinese spy fundraised for him, and in some instances, some people alleged helped him to get into power. It is also important to note that Swalwell is also refusing to answer the question if he slept with this honeypot, who is known for sleeping with many politicians to spy on them for the Chinese government. He's refusing to even answer if that happened between them. But on the bigger backdrop here, we have to understand Eric Swalwell once farted in a public TV show appearance and has been the mainstream media's chief opponent against Donald Trump, and in many instances has been found regurgitating talking points that were shared by the Chinese Communist government, especially when it comes to the Conholio sickness, Donald Trump criticisms. We have to understand what he has been echoing on the mainstream media has been very similar to all the talking points of the Chinese Communist government. At this point, Swalwell is still friends with this honeypot's dad and brother. This honeypot, by the way, is missing. The FBI is looking for her, and it looks like she is back in China, where she has gained a citizenship. So yeah, a major scandal that we should investigate, that we should look into more, especially with Swalwell's position on the House Intelligence Committee and his access to classified information to find out exactly what happened here. But Swalwell, instead of resigning in disgrace, which many people say he should do, he is demanding that the people that released this story, the people, the journalists, the reporters that actually did their job and found out about this and shared this important information with the American public, Eric Swalwell is demanding to go after them and to investigate them for releasing this story, rather than, of course, take any self-responsibility. And again, I have to point out here, it's right out of the communist government's checkbook of what they would do. Oh, a journalist uncovers my ineptness, my incompetence, or my wrongdoing or illegal activity? It's the journalist's fault. They must get in trouble, not me. That's literally what the Chinese government has been doing, and that's what Eric Swalwell is calling for now. Wow, what an utter disgrace that is supposedly representing the people of California. Now, on top of all of this, it is important to signify that within the last 4 years, Eric Swalwell and the mainstream media were literally going on and on about how the election was fraudulent when Donald Trump won it in 2016, how there was confirmed Russian collusion, how Donald Trump, according to Mr. Swalwell, was an agent of the Russian government. All, of course, unfounded conspiracy theories that turned out not to be true. But for 4 years, YouTube highlighted and promoted such absolute nonsense that has been fully debunked based on all the evidence provided. YouTube literally took down independent media saying that the election was legitimate, and they promoted institutions like CNN, MSNBC that said that it was illegitimate. Now YouTube looks like they are reversing their stance completely, almost 180 degrees, with their latest announcement of their new guideline efforts that specifically stating that they will remove content about election fraud. Even though there are important court cases happening right now looking into election fraud, we still don't know exactly what went on. There still are important court proceedings happening right now to determine what happened right now. But YouTube literally made up their mind, and they said, if you say what Eric Swalwell and the mainstream media was saying 4 years ago, right now, they will ban you and delete your content. Now, of course, the classification and rules are a little bit more complex, as I was just even talking to Tim Pool, who I'm literally in his parking lot, but it's safe to say that this doesn't play favorable to a lot of individuals that are still waiting for the court decision to decide what actually happened here. According to many polls, 40% of Americans do believe the elections were fraudulent, so YouTube is essentially banning a viewpoint that 40% of Americans, according to some polls, believe. That's pretty significant and doesn't paint a good picture for YouTube, that, by the way, is also banning disease research scientists with a PhD in pathology like Dr. Chris Martenson, that released a video that was just censored by YouTube. What did he talk about in that video? Well, him and the information he gathered from other medical professionals that are literally coming out and are saying that treatments for this current illness going around are being suppressed, and there are things that work that are not being instituted. Again, I have to be very vague here. I have to say conholio sickness, and I have to say things like the jab here, but you guys know exactly what I'm saying here. But this video, by the way, that Chris Martenson just released, the second one, while it's still up there, I definitely recommend you should watch it, highlights a doctor who is literally pleading with America, since according to him and his expertise working on the front lines at the hospitals right now, there are countless numbers of deaths from this sickness that don't need to happen. And this information, along with YouTube, along with Facebook, is being censored by these institutions. For what reasons? I mean, we could only speculate from here, but when you have the suppression of researchers, of scientists, of people with PhDs, of doctors who are on the front lines, who are begging and pleading with people to get the right information, to get the right medicine, and that's being censored from you, what's really going on here? And that should concern absolutely everybody. I said it yesterday, if Paul Revere existed today, he would literally be shadow banned and censored online, and I do believe that would be essentially true. For example, this channel has had many of its videos deleted even without notification. We have been kicked out of the partner program, and I can't even understand which videos are being deleted, which videos are being censored, which videos are being downranked in this absolute mess where there's not even any communication back and forth between me and YouTube. Literally, I wake up and I have a couple less videos than I did before without even any notifications. And because of that, we rely very heavily on your gracious, amazing, incredible support, even just $5 a month, to keep us up and running. This is a key, crucial time for us, and without you, we wouldn't be here. We have very convenient ways, whether through the Cash App, Venmo, physical mail, cryptocurrencies, or PayPal, or any credit cards. Very easily, we could support us, even with ways if you have no money, with just using third-party platforms in this specific category. If you haven't supported us yet, it's very easy. Just go to wearechange.org/donate. The link is in the description. Click on it, and just $5 a month means the absolute world to us. Sincerely, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for doing this for us. Now, just jumping into the main topic of the Conholio sickness jab, it definitely looks like there's two types of people. Individuals like Ben Shapiro, who are arguing for you to take the jab, and there's other individuals who are siding on the side of caution. And as you know from watching this YouTube channel, caution and skepticism should be your best friend, especially in 2020, especially when it comes to something that is rushed by Big Pharma that has absolutely no liability at all. And it looks like our skepticism is justified, and if you've been watching our YouTube channel since the beginning of our coverage of this, you're very welcome, as we're finding out very troublesome information all around the world, specifically also in Russia, where Russian medical and government officials are warning citizens to avoid alcohol for 2 months after receiving the Russian version of the Conholio sickness jab. This, of course, is going to lead to a lot of problems since, of course, Russia is one of the world's heaviest drinking countries. Now, the Conholio sickness in Russia is called Sputnik 5, and medical professionals are telling people who take Sputnik 5 that they need to take extra precautions for the next 42 days, which includes social distancing, wearing face masks, using sanitizers, having minimal contact with individuals, with not drinking alcohol or taking immune suppressant drugs. Yeah, I mean, good luck with that, guys, but, yeah, I mean, the story speaks for itself. I could make more jokes and puns here, but I won't. Now, of course, it's not only Russia facing difficulties with the jab, it's also the United Kingdom, where medical and government officials, along with regulators, are warning people that have, quote, significant food and medical allergies not to take the jab. This is after workers have suffered anaphylactic shock and reactions after taking this experimental rushed jab. Now, both of these medical professionals are recovering. Luckily, they were able to control the anaphylactic shock, and that there have been a number of individuals who did take this trial. It's also important to note here that the United Kingdom is getting the jab before the United States is. According to some, the United States is just 6 days away from receiving the jab themselves. But at the start of this, let's be honest here, it's already starting to be a very shaky beginning, since people with significant allergies are told not to take the jab in the United Kingdom, while there's also some reports of facial paralysis. Yes, 4 volunteers developed facial paralysis in the United States after taking the Pfizer Conholio sickness jab, which is prompting even the FDA to recommend surveillance of these particular cases. There's even some medical professionals who were a part of the trial run for the jab that are concerned that doctors and professionals aren't being upfront about these side effects, which of course will cause more people to be distrustful. Kristen Cow, a medical professional and assistant professor in the School of Nursing at UCLA, said that she experienced several side effects, including pain at the injection site, headaches, nausea, and a fever of close to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, which was the, quote, highest fever of her life. And now she is saying medical professionals will send out the wrong message if they don't actually address some of these scary side effects and are honest about them. And let's be honest here, when it comes to some of these clinical trials, the data isn't transparent. There's not a lot of it. There's a lot of generalized language. There's a lot of fudging of the data. There was also even mistakes in some medical studies about dosages and percentages of effectiveness, which are being contradicted with one study to another study. Now, regardless of this, there are still some personalities like Ben Shapiro and medical professionals that tell you to take the jab, while other people are, of course, more skeptical, as even half of the New York City Fire Department said that they will refuse to take this jab. And when we look at many polls around the United States, it looks like more people are, of course, skeptical. And let's be honest here, most of Americans aren't even cooperating with the quote contact tracers. So getting this jab to people is already an uphill battle, but some states are literally passing laws that will make the jab mandatory, as we saw in New York State, where the state government ruled that they could only make the jab mandatory if the conholio sickness jab takers fall short of producing the quote needed levels of population immunity. Now, if that sounds confusing, it is, just like most of government. While other states like Illinois are coming out and they're saying that they won't make this jab mandatory even for health workers, but there's a lot of hypocritical creatures like the mayor of Chicago that, by the way, goes out and gets haircuts while telling everyone not to do so, arresting people for even trying to get haircuts by her decree. She's even coming out and she's thinking about a quote way for people to comply to take the jab, and she's literally toying around with ideas to make it mandatory. This is, of course, as we are only a few days away of this jab being rolled out here in the United States, and of course everyone will be paying very close attention to that, including us, which we will do our darnest to report on it as honestly as we can, highlighting both sides of the argument, which are imperative for people to understand now more than ever. Whatever side you're on, looking at the data is imperative right now, and if you fail to do so, this could prove to be very detrimental to you. Already, the pain and suffering is exacerbated by politicians making decrees, not even based off the science, that are causing irreversible damage to the U.S. economy and also the dollar, which is being printed in record numbers. All, of course, as politicians collect as much money as they can for themselves while refusing to, of course, help you, like we saw with Ilhan Omar's husband, that received $635,000 in conholio sickness U.S. government bailout money, while at the same time having his wife pay him a staggering $2.25 million this year alone for fundraising and quote, consulting. Yes, as the rich get richer, the poor get poorer because of the horrible decisions by government. We, of course, are left screwed over by politicians exploiting a situation which we don't even fully grasp and understand, as even we got new data today showing that there was an Italian boy in November of last year that was found with the conholio sickness. Again, totally changing the official story of what actually is happening here, which is changing every day. But one of the most important stories that you should always understand, that you should always take seriously, is, of course, understanding the lesson of history, which if you fully do grasp and understand, you will understand that skepticism of the state is always warranted. That's my particular take on it. If you think I'm wrong in any way, shape, or form, let me know down in the comment section below. I usually answer questions within the first hour that I release a video. I look forward to the conversation. I like being proven wrong. I'm not always right, but it's that process of having an open and honest discussion that literally propels us forward. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. You make this happen, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.